It's Happy Hour again from Uptown New Orleans. Hello, I'm Grant Morris. Happy Hour is part of the family of shows on the podcast network. It's neworleans.com. When you walk into a bar in New Orleans and you pull up a bar stool, you never know who's going to be sitting on either side of you. What you do know is no matter what they look like, what they're wearing, whether they just got out of a limousine or just got out of jail, they're going to be happy to talk to you because that's New Orleans and this is Happy Hour, a cocktail-fueled 60 minutes of random conversation with folks who have nothing in common. Other than we're all New Orleanians in a bar today, we're at the fabulous Wayfare on Ferret Street, which is a couple of blocks down from Napoleon Avenue, right across from, do you know what that's right across from, Casey?
I'm from Minnesota, so no.
You're from Minnesota. Well, turn around and take a look at the European Wax Center.
Ooh.
Do they have that sort of thing in Minnesota? Do they have any Europeans?
Yes.
They do.
I think
Where
so.
are the Minnesotans from originally?
A lot of them are from
Are they
Germany.
Norse? German?
Iowa.
Norwegian. I'm
Bart.
Irish.
Bart is here as well. Bart Everson. Where you know something about Minnesota, do you?
No, but I lived in Sweden for a year. There's some Swedes there.
You lived in
too,
Sweden for 1 year?
Yeah.
Which year?
It was 85, 86.
Okay. So from the middle of 85 to the middle of 86.
Yeah, 1 year to the day.
1 year to the
When
day
I
in
was,
Sweden.
I turned 19 there.
Wow. Did you get kicked out of the country or something?
Well, yeah, kind of. It was. Let's just say that we parted on good terms.
You and the Swedes?
Yeah.
So you're allowed
Had
back?
a soft spot in my heart. It was probably the worst year of my life until, of course, 2005.
That was worse.
Yes.
What was so bad about living in Sweden for a year? When you're 19,
Well,
it sounds like it might have some good qualities.
Are you familiar with Sweden? You know that it's like about the size of California, and most of the people live in the southern 1/3 of it. I was up in the northern part, right up where it meets Finland, up by the Arctic Circle, where very few people live.
Why were you
the
there?
winter was pretty harsh.
Were you in school there or something?
Yeah, I was an exchange student.
Oh, really? And what were you studying exactly?
It was high school.
You were in high school?
Yeah.
What school were you in here?
Greenwood Community High School in Indiana.
Jeez.
Wow.
That's pretty progressive
Yeah.
in the 80s, mid-80s, to go study abroad for a year in Sweden.
Well, I got to tell you, I was the only person from my school who did it. There was not another person from Indiana in the whole cohort. There were like 20 odd of us over there, and from the whole country.
This is Lisa LaFleur Shillace here, by the way, sitting right next to you.
Hi, Bart.
Hello, how you doing?
So do you
I always
still
called you
speak?
LaFleur.
You can.
Do people pronounce LaFleur constantly? I mean, mispronounce it?
Yes.
What's the most common mispronunciation?
Oh, well, around here they don't mispronounce it too badly. But when I lived in Indiana, where Bart's from,
You were in Indiana.
and New York and otherwise, LaFleur or LaFleur or all kinds of things. Around here, people are used
LaFleur?
Right, yeah, telemarketers calling, yeah, for sure. But around here, people are so used to French words and
Right.
French names that they basically say LaFleur.
So, Bart, did you consider killing yourself at all?
Oh, Jesus.
No, I have this strange compulsion to live life fully.
I don't think that's all that strange, is it, Andrew?
No. I'm
That
for it.
escalated
I'm all,
quickly.
yeah, I don't think anyone's...
You got to
I thought
understand
people-
when the snow falls there, it just stays on the ground, and then it freezes, and more falls on top of it, and it builds up layer after layer, so that I literally didn't see the ground for 6 months, and didn't see the sun for quite a while either, because the sun, I was just south of the Arctic Circle, right? The sun would actually pop up over the horizon and go right back down, but you missed it because you're in school.
This is why.
Dang.
This is why I thought people wanted to kill themselves.
Yeah, well,
I thought that's why the suicide rate was so high, because it's dark all the time.
one
Is that
theory
true?
about that is that they're just more honest in reporting. Like in Catholic countries, you would cover it up, call it something else, say it wasn't suicide, and the Swedes are just more honest.
What sort of Catholic countries are we talking about?
Italy,
What are they?
they got a low suicide rate.
No, Lisa, you work for Cafe Reconcile.
I do.
That's a whole Catholic situation over there, isn't it?
Well, not entirely. Our founders were Catholic, but we're not officially Catholic.
So, who owns Cafe Reconcile? Well, tell us a little bit about what it is, in case you listen to this and you don't know what it is.
So it's a nonprofit. So some might call it a social enterprise. It's a nonprofit organization that has a profit-generating arm, our Cafe Reconcile. But our cafe is only open Monday through Friday at lunch because it is our classroom for our students who come through. We go through 6 cohorts of classes of students each year.
the second time we've had the word cohort in 1 minute.
I apologize.
It's very
Cohort.
interesting. You
I
said
apologize.
cohort,
That's 3
Bart, and
times.
now you're saying cohort.
Well,
think-
you said it.
Can you get the
You're
word
inspiring
cohort
each
into the
other.
conversation?
I will. I
Casey,
mean,
at some
You can make
point?
it happen.
Comedy
Okay.
is
Yeah,
three.
we got
So we gotta.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can work the word cohort
Yeah, we'll
into
just
the
forget about it
conversation.
for right now, and then we'll just
you bring it in as soon
slowly
as
bring
you
it
can.
back in. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Well, what
you
about
work
hortatory? Can you work hortatory into it?
I couldn't.
What's the word?
I don't know what that
Hortatory.
is.
I can certainly work that into it. What is the word?
Let's boulder dash the definition right now. Who's going? Let's
But
go.
what is the
Not
word?
it.
Hortatory.
I don't even know how to
I
spell
feel like
that.
it
I'll
would
write it
have
on the
a
table.
common etymological root.
How do you spell it, Bart?
Cohort. Hortatory. H-O-R-T-A.
H-O-R-T. Oops, is that R? H-O-T. H-O-R-T-A.
T-O-R-Y.
Hortatory.
Hortatory.
Xerox. Do you ever heard of that word? Xerox is not a word. What do you think it means?
I think it has something to do with expounding or exhorting.
Somebody
That's
can Google this, right?
oratory.
We're Googling,
Exhort.
right?
Exhort.
No.
If
That's
you exhort,
Oxhort.
E-X-H-O-R-T.
Yeah.
If you
So
exhort somebody,
It's,
Google
if you
says-
exhort something, that's exhort.
it's
Exhort.
tending to exhort.
Is it? It's
That's
a
what
real
Google
word.
says.
Good job. Okay. Excellent. So
But does it share a common etymological root with cohort? That's the real question that
don't
everybody,
know.
I'm sure, is dying to know.
I don't know.
Well, this is why we have Xerox here, so he does know all these things. Xerox pretty much knows everything. Does the word oratory or exhortation have anything to do with hortatory?
No, that's
And
not the
cohort.
question.
Or
Cohort.
Back to cohort.
cohort? Oh,
Does-
okay. It's cohort is the question we're trying. It's the word we're trying to trace.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
But you have a lot of cohorts at Cafe Reconcile.
Oh
as you're
goodness,
saying.
thank you. That was just
What,
wrapping that
what
right
is a
back around.
cohort? A cohort is a group of people.
Yes, it's a
Well,
group of
those are
people
your,
that are
your chums.
well, a group
right?
of people going through a
Your-
common experience, right?
Yeah, your
Oh, okay.
cohorts. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
It's like a class.
It's
ones
comrades.
you were-
It's like comrades.
Yeah. So we have 6 classes, 90 students a year. These students are between the ages of 16 to 24, and they are disconnected from either school or employment, and we're trying to help them.
They're disconnected from either school.
So they're not in school and they're not employed, and a lot of times there's some very significant barriers to those things. Like maybe they are very young parents and they don't have consistent childcare, or maybe they can't afford transportation. They live kind of far out, and wherever they live, there aren't great jobs available. And maybe
So they don't have to have been in jail or anything.
No,
I
no.
thought
There
that
are
was
some.
I
there
thought
are,
that was the.
No, 16 to 24, no. I think maybe about 30% of our young people have had some sort of interaction with the criminal justice or juvenile justice system, but that means that there's like 70% that haven't,
Right.
that have just been in other difficult situations. And we try to help them kind of connect the dots, things that you and I learned as young people in our homes and normal schools, help them catch up.
Yeah.
And what's it got to do with the Catholic Church exactly?
It doesn't. That's what I said. We're not officially connected.
Nothing at all.
So what it has to do with the Catholic Church is that there are arms of the Catholic Church that are trying to help the vulnerable people of the world catch up. And just
But it's not a Catholic charity, Cafe Reconcile.
not technically. We're not part of the Archdiocesan Directory of Catholic agencies or organizations. We're not.
Okay, so who owns Cafe Reconcile? Who are these good-hearted people?
Nobody owns it. It's a nonprofit. By definition, you can't own a nonprofit. So we
its
have a
own thing.
board of directors.
Okay.
And every profit we earn, we put right back into the program, and
What?
trying to invest in helping young people get
Is there
better
some
lives.
other way to ask you who owns it other than who owns it?
No, nobody owns it.
Nobody
We have a
owns
board
it.
of directors.
So who runs it? Who's in charge of it? Who
We have
pays
a
you?
staff. We have an executive director and a board of directors.
What are you called? You're the development manager.
I
it
am the
says.
development manager, so I'm one of the
How-
fundraisers.
How far up the food chain are you? Like a boss? type?
I'm like halfway. I'm not a boss.
What would be the next step up? If you
Director of development,
Director of development.
and
that's-
then our executive director.
Okay, and that's a person who basically asks other people for money.
Yeah, and I do the same thing,
That's what you do.
but we ask in different ways, and different kinds of people.
Okay.
Would you consider Cafe Reconcile a shelter or a refuge?
So I would call it a refuge. I wouldn't call it a shelter per se, because you're not living there.
Okay, if you'd call it a refuge, then it would be a hort,
Oh,
which is from
See, he
Middle
brought the
High
third
German hort.
There you go.
It's also the same word as the English horde.
nice.
So
Circling
if you're cohorting, yeah, we call that a callback in comedy, as she can tell you.
Horting.
Yeah.
That was
Yes,
really good
and
timing. That was really good timing.
And
Very
it's so
good, Sarah.
true. Yeah.
Okay. So the word is hort,
hort.
H-O-R-T.
Yeah, Middle High German.
Okay, well, we've really learned
That's not an
something.
English word.
We've totally learned
Yeah, the
something
English
already.
word would be horde, H-O-A-R-D.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
gosh.
H-O-R-D-E.
Now I'm just thinking
H-O-A-R-D,
hoarders.
like
Me
two
too.
horde.
That's not a good
Oh.
feeling.
No.
You'd think it'd be like a horde of
Yeah.
people, yeah, but it's not.
hoarding something.
According to Wikipedia etymology.
which I trust.
You mean the Hoarders,
implicitly.
like on TV, like the Hoarders show? Isn't that got an A in it?
Yes, that's what he's talking about.
Okay.
But then there's also horde with an E at the end, and that's just like a mass of people,
That's like a horde of animals. Look at all the
which could also
photography.
be a cohort of people.
Okay. Thanks, Alison.
Yeah.
Okay. So, listen here. Where was I, Andrew?
Horde?
Horde. Let's talk about your record coming out, because I meant to bring that up at the beginning of the show, and I totally forgot about it.
Okay.
It's any day now. It's a week or so away.
Jazz Fest, we're going to release the
Right.
physical copy.
Right.
And then,
But people are asking us about this.
Yes. When does a needle
this
drop in the
event.
forest?
Yes.
oh, wow, yeah. Well,
It's catching
Needle
on.
drops in the forest on April 29th, and the word is out. In fact, there's 2 events, and first Sunday, Needle falls in the forest, right? Second Sunday, Breakfest, the brunch festival.
Sweet.
And I'm doing both of them, and I can tell you that the first one, the needle dropping thing, is doing way better ticket wise because the ticket is free.
I thought it was $20.
No, why
What
do
did
you
I
think
get?
that?
Somebody forwarded me an email
Yep. You know what?
that said it was $20.
That flyer was an error, and I think we have to send another email to everybody because we emailed this morning thinking like, are they going to see that? Are they going to see that? We sent the old flyer that said we were going to charge 20. They saw it. So yeah, we need to correct that, if you will, the corrections in
Okay.
the newspaper for the next newsletters.
Has
Listen,
anyone
happen.
sent you $20 yet?
No.
Okay. So how many people are showing up? It sounds like it's going to be a pretty big event.
It's not going to be that big. I'm hoping to keep it under 150 people.
All right.
Yeah.
That would be good if 150 people showed up.
Where is it?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, okay, so let me tell you more about the event. I was camping in Colorado a year ago, right? And I'm packing up, and I'm thinking to myself, not looking forward to getting back to the grid, But I thought, what am I looking forward to? Well, I'm looking forward to listening to music. I hadn't listened to music the whole time I was camping, and I thought, I'm really looking forward to listening to music in like a hi-fi way, my nice record and some nice speakers. And then I thought, why not have my cake and eat it too? What if you could listen to a record in the forest? Wow. So then that idea coupled with the fact that I was coming out with a new record, and then I had this record in my hand, and I'm releasing it independently, and that's a special thing these days. You put it out into the world, and I gotta say, I'm glad that these things like Spotify and Pandora and iTunes exist because they work while you sleep to make you money in ways, and that's nice. They have their drawbacks, but frankly, they're a nice thing. But it's also just kind of releasing it into that river, and it just goes away, and it's no longer yours. But for a moment, I realized it could be, something more special than that, and I think I'm attempting to do that by playing the record. The first record, for the first time, out in the woods on a turntable.
On vinyl.
There's some, on some beautiful.
What I've been
speakers
wondering
and-
about this is what power is it? Battery powered?
No, well, we do have a generator, but
Isn't a generator gonna be kind of noisy?
yeah, that's a great question. I have a very quiet generator that I would be putting behind a tree. But but the good news is, well, I don't want to give away where it is, but I will say
Secret
Oh,
location.
it's
it
a
a
secret
secret?
location.
it is. Yeah, it is.
Fidelio.
Yeah, you have to RSVP to get the location.
Well, this is exciting. Okay.
Yeah. So what was I thinking? Maybe they're in the. I might have some. I will go get some. They're in the car. But I have some postcards that I've been posting to people that had extra special like to come.
Why don't you play us a song while we're here?
Okay, well I got to grab my guitar, so
Get
you
the
have to
guitar.
talk amongst yourselves for
We
a
can
minute.
do that. Okay.
But the flyer literally says somewhere in the woods of City Park.
Okay, so we won't know.
Oh, in City Park.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
So you
I have an
can't-
idea.
So you can't just show up.
Easy. Don't
you
take any
wander.
guesses. I don't want you to see me blush when you think. Please don't take any guesses.
Is it happening after First Friday of Jazz Fest?
After first Sunday of Jazz Fest.
First Sunday
It's the
of Jazz Fest.
29th
Okay.
of July.
Right.
No, not July.
April.
What
Can we
month is
please
it?
not promote it because we
Sunday
got too many RSVPs already?
We don't
Let's
want,
talk about
We don't want
Breakfest.
to promote it. Okay. Breakfast is the most important meal of the year.
That's right. It's a brunch
That's
music
Sunday,
event. Second Sunday.
May the something.
That's May 6th.
Sixth.
Sunday, May 6th.
Okay,
yeah.
grab your guitar and
All right.
play a song.
You
for
guys talk amongst yourselves.
So that Sunday, May 6th is Breakfast, which is taking place at somewhere or other.
Yes,
Crazy.
Actually, I think that's at Second Line Brewing Company. I think I
Second-
heard
okay.
an advertisement for that.
Do we
So
have to
we-
hunt
Neighborhood.
our own food for the breakfast?
Breakfast is food is provided at
Oh,
Second
good.
Line Brewing Company.
Good.
You can show up there, and
That's good.
Andrew's playing, and there's a few other people playing as well.
Because from his idea of finding him in the woods, I thought
No,
maybe
no,
his
no,
breakfast thing
that
would be an
one-
I'd be in-
adventure as
Yeah,
well.
no, I think that's less adventurous. That
Oh,
one.
good.
So that's coming along to that. This is your what, 4th year of Breakfast?
We've done more of that, but it started as a backyard sort of thing. So this is the 4th year when it's been at a public location.
Right. Okay. So what song are you going to play for us today?
That's a great question. I got to be honest. I
have no idea.
I pride myself on coming to you with a brand new draft of something, and I do have a lot of drafts of a lot of things, but they are quite undone. So I was actually thinking about talking to you guys about what I should play.
Okay.
Ooh.
Watch out for that.
You know, what do you want to hear? You want to hear
What do-
something happy? Do you want to hear something sad?
Well, something happy would be better than sad.
Really?
What do you think, Bart?
Sad is always better.
Sad's better. Okay. We've got one happy, one sad.
Are those the only two emotions
Ooh,
we
good
have to
question.
choose from?
No.
What else have we got?
Anger.
Whimsical.
Do I? Well, you know, don't ask me. I mean,
How about
what would
funny? Do you have
prefer?
anything funny?
Yes. Would you like something
Funny.
funny?
Oh, comedy.
Great. Let's do a funny song. Would we like kind of like potty humor or cleaner?
Something sophisticated.
Ooh, sophisticated.
Something with the word cohort or hortatory in it.
Keep it dirty.
Yeah, you could still use potty language.
All right, let's do something in between. I believe this song to be sophisticated in its nature.
In its own way.
Yeah, makes you think a little, maybe a little, probably not much. Goes like this. Well, you can't be too careful these days. With all the cops out on the interstates, they turn on their brights and read you your rights. If you're out drunk driving on Saturday, that's why I drunk drive on the Sabbath all day long. You can drunk drive on the Sabbath all day long. You can drunk drive on the Sabbath, it's the only safe bad habit. Yeah, you can drunk drive on the Sabbath all day long. You can go watch football down at the bar, take a six-pack into the car, and cruise on to the next joint, not worried about a checkpoint. Yeah, you can drunk drive on the Sabbath all day long. Tell me, who's it gonna hurt? All the good folks are in church, and the dogs and cats are locked up inside. So come on, y'all, who's with me? Let's shoot 6 shots of whiskey on ticket for a nice Sunday drive. Oh, we'll drunk drive on the Sabbath all day long. Drunk drive on the Sabbath all day long. Drunk drive on the Sabbath, it's the only safe bad habit, yeah. Drunk drive on the Sabbath all day long. Let's ride.
Okay, that was funny.
Thanks.
That was socially irresponsible, though.
Right?
Socially irresponsible.
And it's anti-religion.
That's right. It comments on religion for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also, it depends on what day you call the Sabbath, because if you're Jewish and
Doesn't
you
it
drunk drive
indeed?
on the Sabbath, you
That
might
would
get
be a
caught.
Saturday.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, about
be
Jehovah's
Friday
Witness.
night.
It's a folk song in that way that the
There's something in it
that
for
the
everybody.
speaker is clearly talking about his own culture and where he can drunk drive on the Sabbath.
Religious Jews also cannot drive on the Sabbath. So.
True, so
Yeah.
that'd be a
Oh,
double bad.
Good point, C-Rock. Good point. And but it says in your information I have about you that you're a pagan.
That's true.
What is a pagan exactly? Is that
That's
a religion?
Very good question. You know,
Thank you.
by
the way.
on the etymological tip, remember we were talking before about word origins and so forth. The word pagan actually comes from paganus, the Latin word for country dweller, a bumpkin, somebody who's out in the remote regions, because as the empire became Christian, it was only the people out in the remote regions that still clung to the old ways and the old religions. So it became an insult. And today, of course, what you might call neo-pagans, or just pagans, contemporary modern pagans, are just people who are kind of interested in that pre-Christian spirituality.
So it's before Jesus came along. We were all pagans.
Actually,
I thought
after
we were all
Jesus was
I
gone,
thought we
there
were
were
all
still a lot
Jews.
of pagans around.
Yeah, there were a lot
It
of
was
Jews before
I thought
Jesus.
we were all Jews before
the Roman Empire
Weren't
didn't
we?
become Christian.
No, there weren't very
for
many
hundreds
Jews
of
even
years.
then.
What are you talking about?
There are chosen select people, don't you know?
What was most people? What were most
Gentiles.
people? Before Jesus.
What do you mean?
What were most people?
Heathens.
Zealots.
They were people. So what I say
Were
is
they?
we're all born pagan. You just have to learn to be
We're all
Christian or
born
something
pagan.
something else. And you
Is
have to
that
be
true?
trained to be something else.
Is pagan the natural state of human beings?
Yes,
Until you're
exactly.
baptized.
And I'm more of like an earth worshiper. There's many different kinds of pagans. I'm a
Which one are you?
nature worshiper, an eco pagan.
Are you a nudist as well?
No, I mean around my own home maybe.
Tuesdays.
I did get arrested for streaking.
Did
Oh,
you
goodness.
really? Where
Is that
was-
why you got kicked
where
out of
was
Sweden?
that?
No, that was yes, that was in Bloomington, Indiana. Yeah.
How old were you? This is before Sweden?
22.
Oh, so after you got
Were you
back?
going to IU at the time?
I was enrolled at Indiana University. In fact, I was on campus.
Yeah, wait, I think they have a streaking run at IU, though, don't they?
Probably now, because
Yeah, 'cause I
these
went-
days.
Yeah, I went
Back
to
in
grad
the
school
day.
there,
Kids
and I'm
get away
pretty
with
sure it
murder.
happened once a year. Like, it was a coordinated effort.
Wow.
You were a trailblazer back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there were at least half a dozen people who were streaking after I did, but none of them got arrested.
Well,
You got arrested
Yeah.
for streaking
man.
at
They-
college.
The leader
Yeah.
of the pack.
So you got arrested with no clothes on.
That's correct.
And you got handcuffed
yes.
with your hands behind your back and you're naked in a police car.
So the guy standing on the
And
I
you
wish
go
I
to
was in
jail.
a police car. I was standing on the side of 10th Street. The officer had my hands cuffed behind me, and he was so nervous he wouldn't let go. My friend came by and dropped my shorts at my feet, and
That's
the
what I
officer
call a
would-
friend.
he was so scared. He was so nervous he wouldn't let me actually put them on, so thereby further exposing me to more motorists as they passed by. His walkie-talkie was malfunctioning, and so he had to wait until a random police cruiser just happened to come down the street. All the while exposing more and more of the citizens of Bloomington to my naked body.
Genitals.
Yeah.
And how were you feeling at that point? What did you think was going to happen?
Before I got arrested?
No,
or
no, no,
after?
no. After you'd been arrested. Before, I assume you
I
were
was-
drunk, weren't you?
No, I wasn't drunk.
You
Are you
weren't
kidding?
drunk.
No, I planned this out.
This is a concentrated
I
effort.
was convinced.
I'm a little worried. No?
I was
Yeah.
convinced that if people could just see somebody running across campus naked, that they might question the socially constructed nature of like all the rules and regulations that we
Okay.
follow. And then so what's wrong with being naked? There's nothing wrong with being naked. We're all born naked. And then the next thing would be the revolution. I was convinced that was going to happen.
So you thought you were going to start the revolution?
Revolution by running across campus naked.
Okay.
Yes.
Which revolution? Against whom?
Well, we'd work that out as we go.
It's the
Revolt
pagan,
against
Against the
pagan
man.
revolution.
Against the man.
Okay. So you had some sort of political philosophy
Oh yeah.
even then in college.
Yeah.
That you haven't given up by the sound of it, though. You've held on to it.
Absolutely.
And what do you believe now? What's your philosophy now? What's your paganism?
Well, it's not. For one thing, it's not so much about belief. I mean, I believe in modern science. I believe in the realities we discover, as science reveals it to us. To me, it's not about belief. It's about practice. What do you actually do?
Well, that was sort of what I was trying to get at. Okay. What do you actually do then? How do you practice paganism?
Well, so my commitment to trying to do right by Mother Earth
Yeah.
leads me to political organizing and so forth, community organizing. We're established a local chapter of the Green Party of Louisiana.
So you're one of the founders of the Green Party.
That's true.
Have you
I
run?
mean, well, not
have you run for
nationally.
office?
No, I can't run for office.
Why is that? Because of your felony?
I'm married, and my wife is not cool with it.
Oh, I see.
You got to have your support of your family.
Yeah.
And
Your wife
believe
doesn't
me,
like
she
the
could
idea?
not. She could not handle that.
Yeah.
But you'd like to?
It's just off the table for me.
So you don't think about it?
I don't think about it too much. I'm not sure.
How long
I'd be
have you
particularly
been
good at
married?
that. We're still celebrating our silver anniversary in September,
So that's 3 years.
about the time of the
Congratulations,
autumnal
that's
equinox.
great. What is that, 25 years?
25, yes.
25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you haven't got your own way yet.
Well, not on that. I mean,
That's a pretty big deal.
she's a little fragile, and I don't want to push her.
Sounds
Okay.
like you respect your wife.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She's a public school teacher.
Ooh.
Okay,
That's
which
amazing.
which
That's-
one does she teach at?
Well, right now she's somewhere in Jefferson Parish.
Okay.
Somewhere?
Well,
That's
the
close
school
enough.
changed names, and nobody has ever heard of it. And it's
Well, what's
that
its name?
Well, it used to be Ames Montessori.
Okay. You know that, Lisa?
Hmm.
You ever heard of that, Casey? You?
Again, I'm from Minnesota, so no.
How long have you been here?
I have been here a year and 3 months.
And what made you come here?
My husband's work.
Why? What does he do?
He works for a robotics company, and their main client is NASA and Boeing.
He should be in this
awesome.
happy hour.
Wow.
Oh, he's
That's
an
pretty-
engineer. He doesn't like
He doesn't
the
like to talk
talking.
to people.
Yeah, or eye contact, that kind of
Okay.
thing.
He
Yeah.
doesn't like eye contact.
I mean, he's a typical engineer.
So you're his social interpreter.
Yes, absolutely.
That's pretty interesting. So he's making robots that go up into space.
He works on robots that do the welding on the shuttles that go up into space. Yes.
Are we still making stuff here? I thought we
Yes.
closed all that down.
No, they're working to bring something up to Mars, and that is as technical as I can get on that.
Okay. So
Mars?
he's working on the Mars
Mars.
mission. He's working on a
Yes,
mission
that
to Mars.
mission. Yes, they're gonna go there to see if we could live there maybe someday. And I'm
Wow.
hoping we get on the list.
Because we're trashing
You
this
know.
one, so we need another.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, when you say we, you mean you personally?
Well, like if this is going down, I want to be on a ship.
But what's he doing?
I'm thinking it's like Wall-E. That's probably not technical, but
Yeah, but you'd have to commit disappear for at least 2 years or whatever of your own existence of life,
get-
experience of
to
life.
get to Mars.
yeah.
It's
Right,
a
and
lot
come back-
longer than 2 years.
Well, I don't know, however many years.
I think it takes a year. I don't know.
It's only 1 year.
I don't know.
But whatever it is, you're committing significant time in your own experience of life to do this one thing, and then who knows if you'll ever come back. That's scary. Would
But
you
ma-
really do that?
Well, if I'm if we're burning here, or I don't know what, I would choose that.
As a refugee,
I like
you would be a
burning.
member of a cohort
I'd
to
go to
Mars.
Sweden.
Yeah, why
Oh.
not?
Cohort to Mars. I think
Nothing
that's
ever
just like that.
happens when people go into space, as all the scary movies show. So I'm down.
So what's your husband's name?
My husband's name is Dan.
Dan.
Yes.
So what's he doing out there? He's working on. He's basically a welder.
Well,
He's welding the space shuttle.
He makes the robot welders work.
Right. But
So he
that's,
doesn't weld.
but that's the
I
same.
mean,
He makes
could.
robots that weld.
Correct.
He makes the
That's
robots.
a little bit.
He makes them
Why
work
don't-
and he makes them talk to the computers and anyway.
Why
But when
can't
we
we
moved,
just weld it ourselves? Why do we need a robot to weld?
because it has to
it's
be
in space.
completely precise, and there can't, and there it's friction welding, so there's no cracks, there's no anything. So
Oh,
it's
you
very,
ain't met my uncle. He's a great welder.
Yeah.
You guys should.
Yeah,
Is he a robot?
but
Oh, he's-
before,
he could
before
totally
we
do it.
before we moved
Your
here,
brother-in-law could weld that.
Oh, I'm telling you.
but before we moved
Yeah.
here, I was a full-time improv performer. So,
You were a full-time improv performer in
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Yes.
Correct.
Speaking of that, Maggie Ritchie on Facebook says,
Yeah.
"How about you ask Casey what she does here instead of asking about her husband?"
Okay.
Zing.
Well, we
Georgia
could.
Smith also says, "Why do y'all ask the women about their husbands every time? I'd like to know more about Casey."
Hey, man.
Lisa, did we ask you about your husband?
No,
What does your husband do?
it's not really interesting.
It's not.
Yeah, he
Well,
works
just
in.
get off of
Good
your
answer.
husband.
Yeah, he's in sales for power fluid connectors.
Power fluid. Hey,
Yeah.
that sounds like similar to Dan.
Yeah, maybe. I
Same
have no
sort of
idea.
thing. Well, we talked about Bart's wife.
Duhon, what does your husband do?
I got to be honest. I don't have a husband.
Ah, shit.
Fair enough, too. So, Casey, you came here to be a comedian, or
Nope, I
you
came
just
here-
came here to be Dan's
Yep.
spouse?
Yep.
So he moved. That's a cool thing to do. That's one of the good things about being married is you get dragged into all kinds of adventures.
Are you interested though in the improv scene here?
I'm a part of the improv scene here.
Dig.
Yep. Mhm.
Tell us what part what crew, what group, what troupe.
Well, currently I'm in a group called Fire Truck.
Okay.
I'm also with I just got really nervous.
Come on, you're an improv
I am,
professional.
yeah, no. Well, and actually, I don't really, I'm not here to talk really about myself. I'm
Cool.
here to talk about all the things that went on. So I'm doing improv here. I'm trying to get into groups. We're kind of in a floating kind of place right now, trying to find a new home.
When you say here to talk about what went on, tell me more.
Yeah.
Well,
I
Avery, you were
do.
gone last week when we had a whole conversation about the New Movement Theatre. And Chris True was here from the New Movement Theatre.
I see.
And he was telling us about what happened in the New Movement Theatre, which was the whole situation where I don't really know what exactly went down.
Yeah, I can tell you.
But there are people who are accusing Chris and Tammy Nelson, who own the theatre, of sexual impropriety. And Chris's contention was that he himself personally was never accused of anything. And that started, him saying that, started a firestorm of people on Facebook saying...
I heard that episode, and I'm
You heard?
very
Right.
curious to
Right, so
hear
Casey,
more.
All right,
Casey's
Casey,
going to
you're
come here to
set
set us straight on the other side of the story.
Yeah, I don't want to set it straight. I just want to bring the facts to the conversation.
Okay.
There was an assault that happened outside of the theater between two people that performed at the theater. It was awful. It was horrible. But that was just the thing that broke the straw that broke the camel's back.
Wow.
Because of that assault, it was brought to the person who was assaulted asked for them to create a harassment policy. There was no policy in place at the time. Because they created a new policy, they had a town hall. At that town hall, a lot more things came to light. And those things, I don't really want to talk about the assault because
Well, it didn't happen in the theater.
it did not happen in
So
the
it
theater.
doesn't have anything to do with the theater.
Plus, you're saying
Well,
it's really
it
all
happened
about
at
other
the
stuff.
owner's apartment.
Okay.
And so it
But
does.
but the people, Chris and Tammy, whose apartment it happened in,
Yep.
weren't a part of this.
Correct.
Neither of them were
Not
involved
that
in
I
it.
know of.
Okay,
Yep.
and they
Yep.
they're the owners of the theater, of the New Movement Theater.
Correct.
So they weren't actually involved in assaulting anybody. Is that
so-
correct? Is that true?
At the town hall, it came to light. People were angry about how they handled the assault, and then I asked personally if they had been having inappropriate relationships with people under their power. They both said yes.
Inappropriate meaning what?
Abuse of power. So I didn't go into detail, but inappropriate sexual relationships.
But what does inappropriate mean? I mean, someone who's a student of Chris's or
Right.
a student of Tammy's.
So they're
Okay.
in a position of power as being the owners and teachers. So
Okay.
there were people coming forward saying that they had been asked by Chris. The abuse of power happened. They both admitted to having inappropriate relationships with people under their power. The HR person at the time told everyone that there are 3 active allegations against Chris. I don't know, Chris and another male employee that was not named. I don't know what's happening with those. People at the town hall asked for them to, at the very least, step away from
But
the
they-
everyday activities, to not teach there anymore, and to put other people who had the trust of the community in place, and they said no.
Well, they own that business. It would be like asking someone else to run this restaurant.
John
Right,
Besh
it's-
did it at Besh Restaurant.
Thank you.
Chris.
It's
Right.
He
not
stepped out.
it's not an easy thing that people were asking of them. I don't think anyone would deny that. But it was the right thing to do. It would have saved the theater. It would have saved the community.
But what do you care about saving the theater if they own it and you don't like them and they were inappropriate and they conducted themselves poorly? Why not just leave?
Oh, we did, and
Okay.
that's why we're boycotting.
Okay.
And the reason I'm still speaking about it is because they are still teaching. They are still in a position of power. I have no idea if the people at that theater taking classes have any idea of the accusations. I think it is an unsafe place because of that. And also, after the town hall, we got an email, which I have, from Tammy saying that Chris had stepped down. He'd stepped away from the theater. That has not happened. Obviously, you asked him how his theater's doing, and he said it's going great. They're changing. Their website is now doesn't say anything about the new movement. They have been actively blocking people who, quote unquote, are too loud. I was said that I was too loud on social media, and that's why I was blocked, taken off the email chains.
So they're trying to do their own rebranding.
Correct.
And kind of like
step
PR
away
disaster. Yeah.
So if someone Googles the new movement, but then their website doesn't say the new movement, that's a way to get away from this. And this is not the first time. I have a statement from Cold Town Theater, the owner, that they used to also own. And he
What's
wanted
it called?
Cold Town.
Cold Town.
So
This is not here in New Orleans, is it?
nope. So it's Michael, and I'm going to probably pronounce his name wrong, Jastrock. His statement on behalf of Cold Town is Chris and Tammy were fired from their management positions from Cold Town Theater, a company they helped found nearly a decade ago from similar patterns of behavior. Their response to this behavioral management issues and their subsequent firing followed a similar trajectory to what you're seeing now. So Chris, on your show, I believe, was trying to paint it as this one incident of this assault that he wasn't a part of. But it isn't one incident. This is a pattern, and it continues, and that's why I'm speaking loudly, because I don't want them to be able to sweep this under the rug.
There seems to be two separate things going on here. One is an assault that apparently actually did happen
Yes.
at some outside of the theater.
I'll say allegedly.
Well, I don't know whether I mean, I'm assuming everyone agrees that really happened.
Yes.
Right? Okay, that's one thing that really happened. That was
Yes.
an event that happened, not in the theater. And then there's a series of other events that you say Chris and Tammy have admitted to behaving in ways that you believe are inappropriate.
Yes.
They're two totally different separate things.
I agree. That's why I don't need to talk about the assault.
One is an assault, which we don't have to deal with here.
Yep.
The other is just people behaving poorly, in your opinion, at a business that they own, which you then no longer have to have anything to do with. That you can boycott, as you're saying.
Right.
Well, but I think it's really important what you just said. I think what made me react was there's still improv classes going on with people who may not know that this is alleged, and maybe that's the course of it, but that's that's striking to me that this is going on, and frankly, I've been thinking about taking improv classes myself.
You've talked about it for quite a while, actually.
I have actually, yeah. But then again, I'm not, I don't know. I'm not the most susceptible person to this sort of thing, necessarily. Mm-hmm. But that's striking to me, and I respect fully the course of law and how this all should play out. Everybody should have their say, but I appreciate you for saying your piece. And
Thank you. It's really not easy to sit here and talk about this.
We've heard a lot of this kind of conversation in general terms in the whole country lately.
Yes.
And usually what happens is people who are accused of these things have to admit it. I mean, Louis C.K., Harvey Weinstein,
So that's what I ultimately, if you've seen any of my public posts, all I've ever asked for and continue to ask for is a public statement from them. They have made no public statement about what has happened.
Well, Chris made a very public statement by coming on the show and talking about it.
He didn't say anything, though, about it.
He didn't admit to having done anything wrong. He said the opposite. He said, I haven't done anything and I haven't been accused of anything. And
so for me, that means he hasn't learned. Because he admitted to an entire group of people that he did do wrong. And there are active allegations
Why would
against
he sat right in that chair where you were sitting right there last week, exactly a week ago today?
Right, but part of the Me Too movement is this awareness and having the uncomfortable conversation about the difference between being an actual predator that actually physically assaults someone and promoting or even subconsciously promoting an environment that allows that sexual predator to exist and continue to exist. So I think something that maybe Casey, if I'm hearing correctly, is talking about that maybe even if he wasn't, because who knows, I don't know any of these people, if he was never himself an actual, ever, committed assault on any other person, he may have created an environment that supported it, allowed it, fed it.
Is that why you're saying?
Yes, that's part of it, absolutely. Absolutely. Because for me, like you said, it's happening all over the country. Unfortunately, in a lot of improv theaters. If I owned it, yes, in theater and everywhere, restaurants.
I mean, the
everywhere.
Catholic Church went through this
Right.
18 years ago pretty loudly and publicly,
Right.
and the rest of the
still ongoing.
individual institutions haven't said,
Right.
okay, let's look at our own.
And
so
that's-
maybe it's more and more into further industries.
Right, and I feel like it's hard to sit here and speak up. It's hard to speak up. Like you said, he's a charismatic guy. He's funny. It's hard to then stand up and say, "Hey, something's wrong. This isn't good."
But he's also a business owner, and one of the things when you're a business owner, you want to keep the business going. And
Of course, but sometimes you're not. You
but
shouldn't
to
be
keep
allowed
the business
to.
going, you really have to admit that things have gone wrong, and we're going to fix it.
Right,
Yeah.
and that was
As
where I'm sorry. I feel like where people asked them to step aside, where they could have still owned the theater, and just put other people who had the trust and went off and learned, or even just pretended to learn, it would have been different.
So you're saying if they just stepped aside for X amount of time,
It
6
would-
months, 9 months, or a
we
year or
would
something.
have been able to begin the process of rebuilding, but they doubled down, and if I owned a theater, and I'm seeing all these things happen in other states about sexual harassment and things like that, I would look in and be like, hey, we don't even have a policy. We should probably fix that. We should probably do something about that.
I think that Chris said they were fixing that. That's exactly what he said last
And
week. That they have
I would
an
love
HR
to know what that is, because none of it has been public.
Well, why would it be?
Exactly. And as I recall from
Yeah.
the episode, I wasn't here, but I listened to it. What I recall was that Chris was focused on that assault, and he seemed to say he had no idea
Yep.
why people would be angry at him.
If I was being accused of things and I didn't do it, I would be saying very loudly, I didn't do it.
He did say that very loud.
But I would say I wouldn't say I don't know what they're talking about. I would say I'm being accused of this, sexual harassment, and I didn't do
Well,
it.
I don't want to speak for Chris, but as I recall, but see if you can remember this, I'm pretty sure what he said was that he hasn't been accused of anything.
Right, which is, I
Well,
have,
if you haven't been accused of anything, it's rather hard to defend it.
yeah,
I mean, you can say the guy's creepy and you don't like him and you don't want to go to his class.
of course.
That's one thing, but
Of course.
if he hasn't actually been accused of doing anything wrong, like these other people, there's a list of things of people's names and things they did wrong that Bill Cosby and Louis C.K. and all these other people did. If people just don't like Chris
It's not,
and they think he's creepy and he's hitting on people,
But as a business owner
Yeah.
and leader, don't we now have an expectation at this day and age in 2018, that someone responds, or a government or a leader responds to say this is unacceptable? We don't support this kind of behavior.
I think
And these are
everybody
the-
agrees with that, though. don't
Right. So I don't know. I'm asking Casey because I don't know much about the new movement. For instance, Starbucks responded immediately. We don't like the incident that happened in Philadelphia.
Right.
We're going to start establishing some, racial bias training for our people. We're going to check our policies because we don't want this to happen again.
Right.
So did New Movement have that kind of response that said, we don't condone this behavior? If there's something that we've done that has supported this behavior or led to, if this is a support, there's
problem.
some sort of foundation in our own system, we're going to investigate it.
Yeah.
Have they said something like that?
So the first email that came out that said that Chris had stepped down, Tammy said she was going to stay on and rebuild. She got a lot of pushback on that because she had also admitted to problems, and people looked to her as also a problem, and she's married to Chris. So, and then the next email that came out still talked about rebuilding, getting better, but then also said there were a lot of half-truths spoken at the town hall. So there has not been. And again, these emails only went out to a select few people. There's never been a public statement. So all of us are left in the dark. We don't know what, and if you notice, if you look back at the podcast with Chris, he says there's things. We're doing things he never goes into detail.
Well, if you look at the list of comments that are coming on our Facebook page now,
I'm trying to find those.
have a look. There's a lot of people who, I'm sure you know these people, are basically saying that I'm taking Chris's side and I'm taking the devil's advocate position.
Well,
and that I'm not taking you seriously.
Yeah, and
Okay. So you need to.
I don't need to convince you. I have truth.
If you're going to come out in public, though, and accuse people of doing things that undermine their business and undermine their character, I believe that's illegal. I don't think you can do that.
I'm not accusing.
You have to have some basis of fact in your own mind, at least.
I have.
Other
facts.
than just. But what are they? If you're going to come out here and to actually just and put me in a position like this and make me ask you questions, you have to answer them.
I think I am.
I don't think you are, though. I don't think you're telling us that exactly what has happened that you object to, other than there's an atmosphere that you don't like down there.
So I heard with my own ears 2 owners of a theater say that they had inappropriate relationships with staff and students. So in my mind, that is an unsafe environment. So I am not accusing anyone of anything. I am saying what I heard out of my ears. So
Okay.
I would love if you didn't say I'm accusing people, because it is hard enough being outspoken and having to question yourself constantly on whether, is this right, is this wrong? It's gaslighting all the time. So we heard this from our own ears. I have a threatening text that Chris sent to the old owner.
All right, so suppose that this is all 100% correct and you're totally right. What would you like to see happen?
I would like a public statement from them. I would like a public statement saying what they admitted to in public, and then to...
You mean you'd like a public statement admitting to what they said in private?
Yes.
In this meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That sounds reasonable.
Yes. And at this point, I would like to see them never be in a position of power again, because they have abused it.
Okay.
So that's what I want.
But when you say position of power, it's just a business. It's not.
So-
they don't even employ people. I mean, they're not employing.
They did have
Well,
employees.
they have. I guess they have employees. They have like some sort of staff, but they don't have. It's not.
So that's an employee.
It's not like. But it's not like Burger King or something where you have to go to work and you.
See, and I think that's where the gray area comes in, and that's why we have all these problems with theater. Is
Yeah.
they are an employee, you're paying them money, and
Right.
in that instance, you're also in charge of who gets to go on stage. You're
But
in charge of who
you're-
gets to perform.
You just said it though. You're paying them money. They're not paying you money.
No, I meant,
You-
I'm sorry, I meant Chris and Tammy are paying their staff money.
Yeah, but they don't. I mean, I don't know how many people work in a theatre. I wouldn't think it's that many. But basically, it's people like you who are going to them and paying them for classes, right?
Yes. Yeah, we pay, and I pay to be in a safe place.
Right. Okay. So what's the upshot of this? What do you want to happen?
Well, like I said,
You
I
just
want to
want to
make
shut the joint down, or have them?
I'd like to make a public statement. I'd like them to make a public statement so that they can't sweep this under the rug.
Okay. And that's all you want. That doesn't sound like asking too much.
That's what I want.
All
I
right.
can't speak for the whole community, but that's what I want.
That's reasonable. I mean, I don't know that this is the same thing, but community theater, is that accurate? Is this community theater, this company?
They're a
Similar.
for-profit,
Yeah.
so I don't
Anyway, you know,
Yeah.
well, I'm part of the community, and I thought about joining the theater many times. It's only
Yeah.
my own, everything else going on that made me not take an improv class. But
And as long
But
as you have all the details and
Yeah,
you
it's-
choose to take a class there,
Well, that's it.
There's nothing.
no,
that's
that's
nothing
true,
you
but
can
that's not
do.
what I'm getting at. I guess what I'm getting at is the community is a lot bigger than the theater.
Yes.
And it is the theater, in fact. So this is important to talk about and to be honest about, and not to be hostile about anybody's opinion or what anybody's seen or heard. Nobody's a fucking pundit on news here. We don't have to pretend like somebody's biased and bullshitting us.
Yeah.
You know, it's actually, if
you.
somebody needs to lie, like we can figure that out. It's community. It's here.
You have the right to say whatever you want.
That's right.
You can come on here and say
we don't
whatever.
have to pressure anybody about saying anything that they want to say. But also, it's important to keep it level and not jump to any conclusions, but to state what it is you've seen, you've heard, and you feel is so important at these sorts of in these sorts of situations,
Yes.
and you need to hear from the community in the
Right.
theater. So thanks for
Well,
saying what
hopefully
you...
that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, it sounds like you have, I think.
And just to be clear, you haven't personally, you didn't experience any of this stuff yourself. You're just reporting what you heard them say.
Correct.
And cop to, yeah. So,
Yeah, there were
But I
red
do
flags
understand
for
it's
me
very-
and things like that, but nothing. I was not harassed. I think I have a unique voice in that I'm new to the community. I could keep it out of the emotional realm. They aren't my friends. They aren't my family.
Yeah.
Improv is such a beautiful art form, and the communities can be so beautiful, and that's why when there's a breach of trust, it can be so devastating.
So that's one thing I was thinking to myself, is that you have to, as a performer, you have to be so vulnerable, and especially
Yes.
when you're in a team. From my performing background, I mean, and I've seen that too in the opera world, where people take advantage of that vulnerability, where you're
Yes.
opening up to try to truly communicate whatever it is,
Yeah.
and someone takes advantage of that vulnerability,
Yeah.
and you're like, whoa, you feel like it's such a betrayal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I am always looking for the bright side of things. Every tragedy is an opportunity for self-reflection. How can we prevent this from happening again? And I
Absolutely.
think this is a conversation we should continue to have, so that if it hasn't happened in another organization or another institution, and there's that, foundation of it potentially creeping up, can we all look at that and say, am I participating in a culture that fosters this kind of behavior that may lead to an assault, like what happened to this poor
Absolutely.
woman?
Okay,
Absolutely.
I have no idea what the fuck happened, but I can tell you that in terms of the art that I have been a part of, like the artistic colleagues, it feels like a community that's freer than other communities. And I'm going to jump to the fact that there's more sex in that community than there is in another community. At least it's a freer kind of sex, I think. It's a more artistic thing. There's
In what community? Just performing community?
well, no, artistic. Any sort of creative types. I talk more with my creative type friends about intimacy than I do to my college buddies who know more about football than I do.
Right.
But that doesn't change the fact that there eventually is a stop sign, and it's 2018, and we're starting to realize that, and probably the chances are this has been going on forever, and we're only just figuring this out. But the stop sign's becoming clear, and that's great. I don't know what happened, so I don't want to demonize the person at fault, but I do, allegedly at fault, but I do want to say that the stop sign isn't any different regardless. Starbucks is an example. Look, stop and let's talk about it.
Right.
Stop
Yeah.
and let's, figure out if there's something we can do to make everybody comfortable, to make this community a theater again.
And let's identify boundaries that are common boundaries, and maybe if my boundaries are a little bit further out than the common boundary, then I'm gonna communicate that so everyone knows where my boundaries are, and let's talk about that, so nobody can claim that they didn't know that you weren't a willing party in this.
Sure.
But you know what? I don't think that anybody can disagree with any of this. Everybody now agrees that sexual impropriety and inappropriate behavior is wrong. And taking advantage of people who are your students, and because you're a sort of a star, and taking advantage of people in that way is wrong, right? Everybody agrees with that. I don't think Chris and Tammy and nobody would disagree with
But
that.
I think it's
Right.
one
So-
thing to agree with it, and another thing to look within.
Yes.
Right.
And to
To
recognize
do
you're
something about
actually in that situation.
So what do you think is the impediment to them admitting this? Because there's not going to be any way forward for this theater.
Well, and I think that's the thing is I realize what we're asking them is to get that I think that is why they are.
Why don't you think they'll do it? What's stopping?
Well, I mean, if I owned a theater, I wouldn't want to give it up, but I
no,
get
I'm not
that.
saying they have to
But
give it up, but wouldn't you want to say, okay, yeah, this really happened. This is actually what we did, and it was bad, and we
yeah, I
acted
don't know.
badly.
I can't speak for them. I
why,
don't
why
know.
did Mark Zuckerberg not immediately apologize
And he
when
had
it
so
came
much.
to light that Cambridge Analytica had had all this user data?
That's where I don't want to go. I don't want to pretend like there's a bazillionaire involved. There's no CNN pundits involved. I don't want to take
Yeah.
this there.
Okay,
This is
why did
this is the
Ann
this is
Tunerman
the
not
theater.
immediately step
This is
down
the
from
theater that
Tales
I.
of the Cocktail.
I don't know. I don't know that situation. But yeah, no, you're not wrong. It's fractal. It's a part of it. Absolutely. But But I just feel like there's a community right here at this table that's speaking about this, and it's in our community. And no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't mean to say that. I don't mean to dispel your argument in any way. I will say there's a lot of difference between the bazillionaire that is Mark Zuckerberg and the situation of talking about our community. And I think that we shouldn't necessarily load the same ammunition, because we can use words in our own community to make this change happen, right? And when I say change, I mean what we're talking about here. Maybe a statement, maybe a open house, let's talk about this.
That's exactly right, Andrew. Have you discussed this with Chris and Tammy? Have you personally had conversations with them about it, Casey?
Well, I've been blocked on everything on social media, but I did.
Sure, we could get Chris to call you back or something if that's all it takes.
I don't know that it's a conversation for me and Chris personally. That's exactly what I
who
don't
would-
want to have happen, is to have private conversations. I want it to be public. I did
She's
go
not
to.
asking for a phone call. She's asking for a public statement.
Yeah, and they did have a, I don't know that they called it a town hall, but I wasn't invited, but I found out about it, and so I went. There were 6 of us, including Tammy and their new HR person, and I said exactly what I'm saying now. Why haven't you made a statement? And they kept saying, we're working on stuff. You have to trust us. We're changing. We've learned our lesson. But for me, I don't know that. How do I know that?
I don't know. How would you find it out?
Well, if they had made public statements, didn't block people, and retaliated against folks that were
Okay, so the bottom line is all you want out of them is a public statement. That's what I'm hearing.
I mean, I feel like that's the next step.
Okay, that's what you want, though.
That's what I want personally.
But then the nature of that public statement you'd look at it and say, well, what's being said, and then you go from there.
They can't just. I mean, it has to.
But there's got to be a way
A
forward.
statement that
Alex. We
starts a
can't ever-
conversation, I hope.
Casey,
Yeah, there has to be a way forward. Out
just
of
to shift this a little bit, Allie Kane says on Facebook, before the show is over, would it be possible to let those listening about where they can see improv that is not the New Movement Theater?
Ooh, awesome opportunity.
Okay.
I mean, there's other venues.
That's the beauty that's come out of this is the community has rallied together. We're producing our own shows. We're hodgepodging.
Whoever that person is right. Tell us about where they are.
Well, unfortunately, we just lost one of our best venues, the Valiant Theater.
Oh.
They just closed on the 13th.
They closed.
They closed.
That's closed down.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
So I had scheduled a weekly show there for the indefinite time. So now I need to find a new venue. But I know there's people doing stuff at Always, Hi Ho.
Hi-ho. Yeah.
Again, I'm from Minnesota.
So you're looking for a theater for your stuff.
Well, I mean, yes, but I'm
Community is
fine.
looking
I'm
for
not.
a placement theater. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not necessarily looking for a brick and mortar. I don't think there's anyone out there that's like, I want to start a theater myself.
Right.
People are just wanting to do the art that they love in a safe place.
Okay. Well, the question was from this person on Facebook. That was, where is that? So there isn't anywhere, is what you're saying.
I mean, it's all over the city.
Where is it?
Where can we go to find out in the next one?
Yeah.
Well-
Chris told us last week about a website called Comedy in
NOLA.
NOLA.com.
.com. Yes, that is a great place.
Okay, so that's the place to go to look up what's going on.
Yes,
in
and make
town.
sure you put in the "in" because his website is Comedy NOLA.
Yes, this is what he tells us. Comedy in NOLA. It's
Comedy in NOLA. Yep, Comedy in NOLA.
Right. 'Cause we had the
Yeah.
discussion of how many ends.
Comedy in NOLA.
It's not Comedy in like a hotel.
No, I remember that conversation. That was
right. It's
that got scary for a second.
comedyinnola.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that is
All
a
right.
great place.
Okay.
And also, if you go to a show and you see a group, a lot of us have Facebook pages where then we promote our next shows.
And it looks like we have a lot of comments on Facebook about upcoming shows and groups.
Oh, great.
So,
Okay.
So
There
go
you
to
go.
our It's New Orleans Facebook page.
Check
That's where
the
they will
live
always.
yeah.
Check her out.
Okay.
And I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
You brought up Devil's Advocate, and I just want to say
I didn't. Somebody on Facebook brought that up.
Sure. I don't think the devil needs an advocate right now. I think the victims of sexual harassment and assault need a advocate.
Amen.
All right. Well, you are that person. Well, thanks for coming on here and going through this. Doesn't look like it's all that
Nice
pleasant.
job.
Yeah.
She needs
No,
another cocktail.
and I-
Somebody get her
actually,
another
I
Well, we
haven't
have
even I
drinks.
haven't even had one. This is tonic.
Can we
water.
get you one now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
You've earned a
I would
drink.
love to also
about.
say I'd love for you to have me on again where I can talk about
Fucking
why
right.
I
Being
love
funny.
improv
Yes.
and what I
All
plan
right.
to do with the city and bring improv into this community.
Nice
Yeah,
job.
we still have plans to do that. You're not running away. Or Dan's here.
Dan's here.
We're here for the
I mean, if
duration. We're here
Nas-
till we go to Mars. When are we going to Mars?
I
don't know.
Not.
I don't know, but yes, I am
immediately
here, and I have some fun ideas in mind.
All right.
Because
Well,
improv
come
is
back and
amazing.
talk about comedy.
I
It'd
will.
be a lot more
I'd
fun.
love to.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I'd love to.
Well, thank you for doing this. It's pretty tough, I know.
Yeah, it's
Good on you.
Yeah, it's
right.
one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah, well, you were nervous. I bet you weren't expecting to be nervous today.
I have woken up every night at 3 a.m. thinking about this
Ah.
because honestly, you put yourself out there, and you put yourself out there, and people will immediately think, well, why do you hate them? Why are you lying? What is people love to jump to another conclusion, which I think can foster conversation, but I would love to see it where people's first reaction is to stop and listen.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Here.
I think you're right. I think people are gradually getting the message that you have to believe what people tell you about
You would
these
be
things.
surprised.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that is as common as you think. I think it's easier for people to not believe because believing means that someone did something very wrong.
Right.
Oh, thank you. That's nice to know that I have
What's that?
support. Just support.
Go Casey, Casey, Casey.
Yeah, you have a lot of people who are writing in support of you on our Facebook
really
page. There's a
nice.
very active, small community of people who support you here.
Yeah.
Comedians.
I came from an amazing community in Minneapolis, and coming here was not easy. I questioned myself all the time of, what am I doing? I had a full-time career. It was a very hard transition.
Sure.
But in that town hall, I had a moment of, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here, so
Okay.
I can have this strong voice
All right.
for people who
and
can't.
the public statement you're asking for, you expect to lead to more conversation with the community, right?
I would,
Yeah.
I would imagine
and
that's
I,
what
I
would
wasn't
happen.
here for last week, but to me that is the problem. Well, no, not the problem. That is the solution to this conversation is coming to the table on your side of the table. It's not like reaching across the table in some aggressive manner. You are coming to your side and asking for, and that's all I have to say about this is thanks for coming to your side of the table and being interested in talking, about it. So
And I
thanks.
hope you can use this to draw out all of those awesome people
Yeah.
who want to create this super supportive environment for
Yes.
improv and all kinds of performers
Absolutely.
to express in this super safe space, and you
Yes.
guys get more attention and more followers and more
Absolutely.
audience all because of it.
Yeah.
I hope that's where it goes, is that it pulls the
Yeah.
good people and the good out of people together.
Absolutely. Yep. I think that's all we all want is a safe place to do this amazing art. Yeah. And I want to make sure that just the information's out there for people to have. What they do
All
with it
right,
is their
Casey.
yeah.
Thank you, Casey
Yeah,
Haeg, Haeg. So we can find you on Facebook, or we can
Yes,
find
you can find me on Facebook. All my posts have been public.
All right. Very
can
good.
find all
Well,
that.
thanks very much.
Thanks. You can also
Get-
find my
get
pug
yourself-
what on Instagram if
Your
you want.
pug, what? That's the name of your dog?
Yeah, at what the pug.
What
if
the
you want.
pug's got his own account?
Yeah.
What?
Geriatric
Okay.
blind pug.
Oh, he's not really. How old is he?
He's 11 years old.
What's his voice sound like?
It goes between like a lisp and like a English
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the English thing. I always
Okay.
talk to dogs in English accents myself.
No, that's a good idea. You think they?
Oh,
send
yeah,
it to-
chap. Oh, all right, yeah.
I
That's
said I
what
wasn't going to
I
plug anything, but I feel okay plugging
Your
my
dog.
dog.
The pug's
Yeah.
Instagram account. I think we have to follow that.
Please
but
do.
these dogs live quite a while. These pugs, don't they?
God, I hope so.
I think they live. I think these
Yeah,
little
it
dogs
depends. Some pugs are really fat.
live. Is he overweight?
He is not.
Are you allowed to? Are you allowed to? Can you body shame an animal?
I told my vet the other day, he said he gained weight, and I said, don't body shame my pug.
That's what I'm wondering. Can you?
I feel
Well,
like your own pug, you can say whatever you,
You can
want.
say about your own pug.
Don't-
All right. What
yeah.
the pug is a little
What the
overweight.
pug.
Well, keep him healthy so he can make another few
Yeah.
more years. Casey Haeg, thank you so much for being here
Thank you for having me.
as well. Lisa LaFleur Shillace. I almost got it right the first time.
You almost got it wrong the first time, but then you got it right the second time. So kudos to you.
I'm going to do it again. Lisa LaFleur Shillace.
That's right.
Okay, and Bart Everson. Thank you so much, Mr. Pagan.
Thank you,
We hardly
Grant.
had a chance to really get through much paganism.
Well,
I want
More
to get-
next time.
I'm happy
More
to come
next
back
time.
to
Come on back.
More to come.
BartEverson.com.
Andrew Duhon. Don't forget
We're always open.
Breakfast, the most important meal of the year, and Needle Drop.
That's right.
But
I feel
don't-
like I played the wrong
In the
song
forest.
today. I don't know.
Well, we'll do another one next week. Are you back here next week?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll see you back here next week. The
Yep.
producer of our show is Graham DePonte. Our associate producer is Alison Moon. Christian Unruh is our music director, and Thomas Walsh is our technical director. Today's show is engineered by Eric Morrill. Asher Griffith is our Facebook live feed director, and Andrew Searock sitting next to me is our fact checker and social media connector. Our theme music was written by and is currently being played by Mitch Foreman. If you'd like to be on our show, and you can stay upright for about an hour while drinking alcohol, drop us a line. Our address is on our website, itsneworleans.com. We can also check out many other hours of Happy Hour that are up there, as well as other shows we make around here. Out to Lunch with Peter Raschuti, live from Commander's Palace. Louisiana Eats with Poppy Talker, and our award-winning podcast about death called Death the Podcast, which is named one of the top 40 podcasts in America in 2017. You can also find other great Louisiana podcasts as well at itsacadiana.com and itsbatonrouge.la. You can keep up with us on Facebook and Twitter and a bunch of other time-sucking social media as well. On all of it, we're called It's New Orleans. You can find photos from this show on itsneworleans.com and on our Facebook page. These photos were taken today by a range of different people whose names are Alison Moon, Jill LaFleur, no relation, Josephine Hennessey, and Cloud Strife. How about that? If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, thank you for listening to us and subscribing to us. Take a moment to rate and review us if you've got one. That helps other people find us. Our show is recorded live today at Wayfare on Ferret Street in Uptown New Orleans. Happy Hours of production of INO Broadcasting for itsneworleans.com. For Andrew Duhon, everybody else around here, around the table at Wayfare and back at our office at INO Broadcasting. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here next week. I'm Grant Morris. We'll be back for more Happy Hour.
Yeah.
Right now, you can get both Sprint's unlimited plan and the all-new Samsung Galaxy S10 included for just $35 per month per line for 5 lines. All you need is approved credit and an 18-month lease. No trade-in required. Visit a Sprint store, sprint.com, or call 800-SPRINT-1.
S10 128 gigabyte, $10 a month, up to 20 or 50-month credit applied, then 2 bills are canceled early. You may balance due. Unlimited basic after 9/30/20, pay $32 per month per line. Auto pay, data defertilization to congestion, speed maximum, 0 stores and restrictions apply.